Sadiq Khan and his pals in the Labour Party who openly advocated for a known terrorist, Shamima Begum, to return to the UK. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Freethinker Cast. I am your host Hannah, and today, would you believe me if I told you that the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, was knighted by King Charles? Yes, today we're going to be discussing all of his accomplishments and see if he's actually worthy of this knighthood. But before we do, remember to drop a like on this video and a comment, subscribe to this channel. Every single like, everybody listening, this can boost the video in the algorithm and you can have more representation of your values in the media. And that is what this is all about. It's why I wanted to set out to start this podcast. I mean, imagine all of the white girls watching Sadiq Khan getting knighted. The white girls specifically who are the victims of the grooming gangs in Telford and in Rochdale. Sadiq Khan, if you weren't aware of this, he actually evaded the question at the London Assembly about the possible presence of grooming gangs in London. He doesn't care about the victimization of white girls in London because he's just not even answered this question. So imagine these girls watching this man get knighted. It is unacceptable and we need more representation of our values out there. So like, comment and subscribe. Okay, so this BBC report reads, the formal ceremony saw the mayor go down on one knee and be dubbed with a sword by the monarch, the traditional process for conferring a knighthood. Sir Sadiq, I don't see that one catching on, but okay, Sir Sadiq, who was re-elected for a third term in May 2024, is the first mayor of London to receive the honour, and this is for his political and public service. So his knighthood has sparked uproar amongst his critics because of his failure as the London mayor to combat rising crime in the city. Most infuriatingly for Brits is his refusal to acknowledge the possible presence of grooming gangs. When quizzed on this at the London Assembly by Susan Hall, he kept evading the question. He kept saying, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Just asking for more clarification, like he knows exactly what Susan Hall meant by the victimization of white girls in these grooming gangs. But he kept, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And really was just his way of trying. I think what I was picking up anyways was he was trying to lure Susan Hall into mentioning the ethnicity of the perpetrators. And if he can get Susan Hall to say the ethnicity of the perpetrators of these grooming gangs, he would feel justified in ignoring the question or even condemning the question because he feels like this question has racist undertones. But what I loved about Susan Hall in the London Assembly on this day and in this meeting is that her focus remained on the victims, which were disproportionately white girls. And even then, when you isolate the racial component of the perpetrators and you solely focus on delivering justice for those girls, Sadiq Khan couldn't care less. Now, what Sadiq does choose to acknowledge is the presence of grooming gangs who are systemically targeting young black boys in London. Not the white girls who are being victimised, but the black boys who are being victimised. So organised criminal networks are targeting black boys in particular because they know that police officers are hesitant to apply or enforce the law with minority ethnic groups. PC Rick Pryor voiced these concerns. So we know that a lot of this is happening to black boys in London. And Sadiq, in this hearing with Susan Hall, says we see that it's happening to black boys, but we don't see that it's happening to white girls. Covering my eyes. It's happening to black boys, not to white girls. This clearly demonstrates that Sadiq Khan has a racially motivated selective empathy towards victims of gang grooming. This is unacceptable. And it is certainly part of a broader political sentiment that actively undermines and disregards the white population in London and the UK. It's one of the reasons that they've been driven to just leave London altogether. They leave for more rural areas and towns, countryside areas, where they can find a majority white population and they can have more community cohesion that way. Because they feel like they no longer recognise London and they no longer identify with their capital city. And let me tell you something, it is not strictly the blatant disregard for white issues in London that has caused them to flee, but it is also the soaring knife crime rates in London that has just rendered this city inhospitable and unsafe for everyone regardless of their ethnicity. The Standard reported an average of 46 knife-related incidents a day. The Times reported in 2022 to 2023, over 80% of residential burglaries recorded by the Met had no suspect identified. Post a comment or an opinion on X, they will arrive at your doorstep and they will actually conduct a more thorough investigation into you hurting somebody's feelings than investigating an actual burglary. It's also the reason that residential neighborhoods have had to invest more in private security. You want to know why everybody's buying a Ring camera for their doorbell? It's because when you ring 999, it doesn't bloody work. Not to mention that ULEZ, expanded by Sadiq Khan, was highly unpopular with the working class as it places economic strain on businesses and the transportation of goods. You have to pay £12.50 a day if your vehicle is non-compliant, and £100 a day if you've got a HGV or a lorry that's also non-compliant. This places a financial burden on many people who rely on vehicles for transportation around London. They claim that ULEZ is intended to reduce harmful emissions, but I personally believe it's there to pressure drivers to make the transition to electric vehicles, because a digitized world is a world that's easier to control governmentally. So for instance, digital healthcare, having the NHS on your phone, is the precursor or was the precursor to NHS track and trace. Digital payments, contactless cards, have led us to a virtually cashless society where now every single transaction is monitored very closely by your bank. I still remember this clip of this guy who wanted to withdraw 2.5k to buy a motorbike for his kid, and his bank, I think it was HSBC, would not let him withdraw the payment. They were like, why? They thought it was like fraud. I think their defense was like it could have been potential fraud. And who wants more government regulation in every aspect of our lives, especially when it was Sadiq Khan and his pals in the Labour Party who openly advocated for a known terrorist, Shamima Begum, to return to the UK. Being weak on being weak on foreign policy is the worst thing you can do for national security. You need to send the signal loud and clear. If you want to join ISIS, you ain't coming back. You are gone for good. We don't want any budding ISIS hopefuls who are considering or thinking about joining ISIS to consider joining them and thinking of it as like you're signing up and you're auditioning at the X Factor. Oh, it's okay, just give it a go, see how it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, it's fine. And if it doesn't work out, try again next year. I'm going to try again next year. This is national security. This is not your pop star career. Also, Sadiq Khan nearly sabotaged the UK's relationship with Donald Trump after calling him misogynistic, racist, homophobic, all of the is and the isms and the bigots and the phobics, anything you can possibly think of. And he found himself having to backpedal quite embarrassingly on an LBC interview where, get this is my favorite part, and I want you to watch the whole video for you see my favorite part. He now considers Donald Trump to be as a best mate type of thing. Best mate! Watch the video.
Sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist. You've returned to that accusation that you made previously. What does that achieve?
Well, listen, it's really important that we put out a hand of friendship to President-elect Trump. I wish him well.
You can't have it both ways. You can't call his policies sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic and racist and put out a hand of friendship at the same time. Well, or do you think you can?
I think the three things that even Donald Trump supporters would agree with is his policies are protectionist, nativist and unilateralist. I think that poses problems, not just for our great country and the world, but also for London. Now, look. I want our government and our country to continue to have a special relationship with, President Trump and the USA. One of the joys about a special relationship is like having a best mate. Our expectations are more for a best mate, our closest ally, than they are of others. And that means sometimes calling out your best mate or your closest ally when you think they're doing things you disagree with.
It wasn't just Sadiq Khan who had to do all of this really embarrassing backpedaling. David Lamming made some nasty comments. Keir Starmer, those are clips of Keir Starmer saying negative things about Donald Trump. They found themselves having to especially grovel after it was announced that Donald Trump was planning on imposing tariffs on any imports to the US. And the Labour Party had about 3 weeks. I don't know exactly how long it was, but something like less than 3 weeks to repair their relationship with Donald Trump. They had to repair it fast before Trump taxed the UK into oblivion, ensuring that Labour would never be voted in again. The Guardian reported in April 2025, UK GDP contracted by 0.3%, the largest drop in 18 months, driven primarily by a £2 billion slump in goods exported to the US following new tariffs on cars, steel and chemicals. So maybe they should think twice about insulting their political opposition, especially where we're always going to have our differences. In a world where political disagreements are inevitable, maintaining respectful bipartisanship is a crucial aspect of a healthy democracy. And if that wasn't bad enough, his lack of self-awareness is possibly worse. When he was asked on a podcast why he was so unpopular with the right, he attributed his unpopularity to his Islamic and Asian identity. Not his failure to acknowledge the systemic victimization of white girls in grooming gangs, not his soaring knife crime rates, not his over 80% of uninvestigated burglaries, not his ULEZ restrictions that suffocate the working class in the name of environmentalism, and not anything to do with the fact that he verbally attacked the leader of one of Britain's greatest economic contributors, the United States. None of these things, all of your unpopularity, Sadiq Khan, is because you're Asian, you're a Muslim? I don't get that. And I think you sound like I'm not even saying this in a sexist way, but you sound like a girl when you say something like that. Is it because I'm fat? What? Like a really insecure girl. Is it because I'm fat? Because I've been feeling fat recently? I just said the other dress looked nicer. Is it because I look fat in this? No, you don't. No one said that. How did you draw that conclusion? And just a frame of reference, David Beckham has been knighted for his extensive charity work. Another rugby player has also been knighted. So why Sadiq? And I'm not saying you need to have a perfect track record, but I'm saying when yours is as bad as Sadiq's, why him? Now, no matter how much I dislike his governance over London, and no matter how much I dislike his rhetoric, he has been re-elected twice and he is serving his third term as the mayor. So if people disliked him this much, why is he not gone? Why is he still here? I believe it's because, well, for several reasons. One of them being he is brilliant for food poverty, and he made free school dinners for even primary school kids. That's something that he put into effect. So he's really popular with people in that regard. But I think more than that is people have a racial and religious pact. Above the positive things he's done, which are not many, but some positive things, people have a racial and religious pact with him. I mean, listing all of the terrible things he's done in this episode, why do people still want him? I think there is a racial and religious pact. Identity politics, I think a lot of people in London still ascribe to that. And identity politics is basically just assuming that someone else is going to represent your beliefs or your best interests primarily because they share the same identity with you. I think that could be immediately rebutted when you see that, okay, he's a minority, but what has he done for rising knife crime in black communities? He's not done jack all for me. He doesn't represent me. He doesn't help my black family members who are hesitant to go into certain areas of London. He's done nothing for that. But I think because he's a minority, and especially now that because he's Muslim and he's also he's supporting Gaza and he's pro-Palestine, a lot of Muslim people are going to show him favour with that. That's there as well. People do have a racial and religious allegiance with Sadiq Khan, and people still, unfortunately, ascribe to identity politics in London. But the good news is identity politics has an expiration date. It expires after a while because people grow weary and their reality catches up to them, and their ideals of what people should say and people should think, people should do when put in practice don't work. Your burglary is not being investigated, knife crime is on the rise, and nobody feels safe. Nobody can even express certain opinions and speak out against certain politicians. Once the reality catches up to people, people will snap. And I think that's what happened in 2016 when Americans voted in Trump. They were tired. They were just sick of it. And they wanted somebody so anti-establishment, which is what Trump was. And so they elected him. And I strongly believe this is on the horizon in the UK. Black people, Mexicans, Latinos, they were voting for him. The largest voter turnouts of minority groups for a Republican candidate. That's insane. This happened with enough frustration and enough time and enough calling a spade a spade. These politicians are not serving our communities. And I believe that's on the horizon in the UK. I really do. I believe that political reformation is around the corner. We're seeing it now. I mean, I think Reform UK's membership is over 200,000 or 250,000. People are saying they're the real opposition. Like they're putting the Tory party to bed. People really want reform, and I think that's why it's starting to show up. A lot is changing in the UK, and if you agree with that, give this video a big thumbs up. We need to boost this in the algorithm. We need more representation of our values in media, because a lot of people will accept what the media says about nationalism, says about the British flag, says about Sadiq Khan, or whatever policy they prescribe, purely because it is the only one you're exposed to. And so that just shapes your perspective. But here on the Free Thinker Cast, we welcome all opinions, all backgrounds, all walks. I read some of your comments and you're like, I disagree with this. I'm like, okay, that's okay. And I'll heart the comment. I don't know if you notice I've been doing that. I'm like, that's fine. Just stay. Like, why do I need to be preaching to the choir? Yeah, you can just hear me out, right? Like, comment, and subscribe.